Evening, everyone, and welcome to the Family Conversation. We are your hosts, the Alfred family.
I'm Dr. Caius Alfred, and this is my wife.
Sara, Alfred, we are so delighted to share another evening with you from our home on our Facebook Live platform, the Family Conversation. This forum is dedicated to strengthening marriages, family relationships, and to help parents and congregation impart strong Christian values to their children.
Here we discuss family matters in a very conversational way. And we always invite your participation, so feel free to ask your questions, make comments, and we'll just be delighted to have you.
Let us pray. Loving Lord, we want to thank you once again for another opportunity to be live on this program. We thank you for the many blessings that has been wrought through this program. Now that we're about to begin tonight, we pray for your divine presence to be near us. May the information imparted tonight will also be meaningful again to all those who will be listening and to all those who will view some other time. Hear and answer our prayer this evening, we pray for Christ's sake. Amen.
Amen. Well, this evening we continue our conversation on how to work out the differences in your relationship or the misunderstanding that people have, that couples have. Of course, we started by showing the differences between the male and the female and how these can lead to misunderstanding. And today we want to share with you how to work out some of these differences. In fact, we started last Monday talking about how to resolve those differences. I must admit that navigating a relationship is hard work, right? It requires patience, love, and understanding. And as many persons will tell you, you cannot prevent conflicts from arising. There will always be moments when misunderstanding will arise, and you will need to. When these things happen, you'll need to learn to exercise patience with each other, treat each other with compassion, okay, with kindness and respect. And then you will also need to seek to understand your spouse so that you can navigate that relationship. You can mitigate the conflict that has arisen or mediate the conflict that has arisen so that you can handle situation. Okay, so essentially, I should say here that most of the conflicts that happen, most I said not all, most of the conflicts that happen in a relationship centers around misunderstanding. Okay, it is, and I can say that much of the misunderstanding happens because too many persons assume what the other persons mean, or they assume that they have understood the other person, and they are miles apart. And because of that, the responses that are elicited because of this misunderstanding can exacerbate the situation. So it's very important to understand, each other.
Or to seek clarity
Yes.
when something is happening or you're having a discussion or there is a misunderstanding. If you seek clarity, then you would be better able to respond or give the proper response to the situation.
I agree with you, because if you understand the situation, if you take time to clarify it, to give enough details, to show things from your each other's perspective.
Or to ask questions.
Right, that's true. You'll go a long way in understanding and responding appropriately. So to a large degree, too much misunderstanding takes place. Too much assumption happens in the relationship, and you do a very good job. So in my mind, very key to misunderstanding them is to develop the proper art of listening.
There we go. You have to listen, because if you don't take time to listen, and this is a very serious point. Very often when there is a misunderstanding between two individuals, persons are more preparing to give an answer or their viewpoint instead of listening to what the other person has to say. So because of that, you don't listen attentively, you don't listen carefully, and you miss out sometimes some salient points that are being made, not even moving in the direction that you are thinking about. Sometimes it's just something that is so important that you need to hear, but because you think there is a situation and the person is responding to the situation, you begin to think of answers to give that individual, and this just creates a big problem.
Yes. Sometimes we are more prepared to rebut than to try and understand. So maybe I can share, or both of us, we can share a little bit of tips with you on how to learn to listen properly. I think one of the cardinal rules is to try and avoid interrupting your partner when he or she is speaking, and be more prepared, as we said, to understand what the person has to say than to be prepared to respond.
So, for example, if there is a situation between the two of you and one person is speaking or relating what happened and the way they feel about it, you need to allow the individual to say what they want to say. And just listen. By interrupting, it creates aggravation. And with this aggravation, it will lead to problems. And sometimes the problem is never solved just because of interruption. So interruption is one of the key factors that we need to pay close attention to, that we avoid it completely. Just listen.
And you need to listen without interrupting, even if you do not agree with what the person is saying. And even if you think what the person is saying is untrue, you should still listen to what the person has to say. And I think another very important thing is that you should avoid attacking what the person says just because you don't agree or you think the person has misstated something or what the person said is not true. Just avoid attacking what the person says, and listen and try to understand. Ask questions, as you said, for clarity rather than to jump to your defense or try to prepare a rebuttal for what the person is saying. Do not attack what your spouse has said, because you are not there to defend yourself or to correct the person. You are there to understand things from the person's perspective.
Yeah, but because you must remember, you're not on a battlefield.
Yes.
You don't come to fight. There is a problem and it needs to be solved. And to solve any problem, whether it be a mathematical problem or whether it be a situation at home, you need to take time to do it so that it would be correct, So it is important that you listen. And when you don't listen, you are being disrespectful, which is another point that is important in the relationship, or when you are ready to solve a problem. You need to be able to be respectful.
Yes.
Even if you think that you are right and the person is also wrong, far from what it is, you need to be respectful. You do not need to call names and give dirty remarks. This is not solving the problem. For that matter, you are creating a bigger problem when you are being disrespectful. Because you see, it is at that point when you become disrespectful, whichever, between the two, whoever, you begin to, your emotion now is beginning to swell up. Yes. The anger one.
Yes, in fact, I agree with you. To me, most of the issue is because you have not asked the person or you have not taken time to understand why something has happened, but your emotion gets in the way and you are responding out of your emotion and not because, and without having first understood the other side of the situation. I think one of the things I can recall is the whole idea about, you know, how people respond, and I like to illustrate it to families. I said, if my wife was waiting for me at Marcy, okay, and I told her I was going to come and pick her up at 4, but I turned up about maybe 6 o'clock. That's 2 hours of waiting. She may be fuming, disturbed, but I didn't call her to tell her I was going to be late. Um, you know, so she really is not sure what is happening, but she's upset because maybe she had to attend classes the very evening, and so I have disrupted her schedule and a number of things. So she gets angry, and as soon as I arrive, without asking me anything, she just blasts out on me. This is an emotional response. Because you're upset, you are blasting out, but you have not understood anything from my perspective.
Now, sometimes you think you are so right. That's why you are responding in that way, because you've made all the attempts that you think you could have done in order to reach that individual. So you may have called, and for sure you saw ringing, so you know the phone was ringing. You may have done everything else, and because the phone you saw ringing and you know it is ringing, you are saying that this person is paying no attention to your call. But sometimes that individual may have been in a meeting, or sometimes misplaced the phone. Yes, the phone is ringing, but the phone is not even nearby. Sometimes the phone is on silent. So we need to take into consideration various things that can come in the way. That is why we are not getting the response we are looking for. Yeah. So sometimes we need to,
give the benefit of the doubt to
the other individual
until you have gotten the facts of the situation. So I think that is one of the big issues, okay, in misunderstanding and in some of the conflict that has some of the conflicts, that have really assailed some families.
So we just want to pause a while to say good night to some of our listeners who are there. Later on, we're going to call some more names. But at the moment, we are saying good night to Martha Monrose, Thomas Shalmine, Jean Nelson, Albertha Harvey, Elizabeth Alfred, Elsa the Anointed, Walsh Cassil, and Theodore Jeremy. We want to say, and Luam, we want to say special good night to you and thank you for joining us. What we want you to do for us is to just touch that button and share the link and press the like button as well. Subscribe. If you're on YouTube, because we are using various platforms, make sure you subscribe to our channel so that you can always get notifications when we are on the program.
Yes, you're quite right. So I think we need to, as we said, in order to minimize misunderstanding, do not react based on emotions alone. Try to take time to understand the situation. Okay, and even after you have understood the situation, sometimes you can be too emotionally charged, and it might serve you best to take time out and cool yourself down, calm yourself down, rather than making a scene. Okay, because it may not lead to wholesome communication or conversation.
Or it may not solve the problem. For that matter, it compounds the problem.
Yes. So what I've discovered though is that because of this lack of information, many persons develop a very destructive pattern of communication, ineffective and even destructive communication pattern in their family. So something happened, instead of trying. Now, sometimes unwittingly or unknowingly, these things happen. But generally, you see a pattern like this. Something is happening, another person believes that if you address that, if you take care of this, it will be better for the relationship. Now, instead of adopting a proper posture of meeting and sitting to discuss the thing, they either criticize, you know, or blame somebody for something, and then it causes the person to be on the defense. They either find themselves trying to explain a reason why they are doing what they are doing and feeling that they are misunderstood. So this defense posture causes the other person to believe that you are not listening to them or you're not understanding what they are saying to you. And then they are, it moves to them attacking you a little more instead of cooling down and waiting for a better time to discuss the matter. And sometimes it gets so bad that it gets into judgmental statement, it gets into name calling, and then after a while, when that continues in that kind of pattern, people come up to the belief that, you know what, this relationship is not getting anywhere. Um, this thing is just, it's not going to work. I just think I should get out of it. And so the whole issue of the impatience and and a breach of commitment begin to surface in that relationship. I think we need to be very careful about how we deal with those situations, because we can set the grave of that relationship by not following proper listening rules or proper communication skills.
One thing I know for sure, if you practice in your family, it will really lead to really serious problem, is the criticism. Now, sometimes we get into criticizing each other, not, you don't even plan to do it and you find yourself doing it. And that can be for two reasons. One, the way you were brought up, the environment in which you grew up. That's all you know, that's all you've been hearing. In your mind, that's not what you'll want to practice, but it's so much part of you, of your upbringing, that it comes like second nature. So anytime you are angry or anytime you feel that you are not being heard, you then begin to criticize the other person. Anytime you criticize someone, you know that this person is going to get on the defensive side. You have to be really good to be able to hear somebody just criticizing you and to be quiet. But it is a good thing to practice because it does work. If you do not answer or make no mention of what is going on, just listen, and you choose an appointed time to rediscuss that problem, you would realize you can forge ahead a lot better than if you were to tackle it at the same time.
Yes, I agree with you, and that's a very good observation that you have made there. Because what I have found out is that it's not that sometimes the things that the person want to draw to your attention, it's not that it's not necessary. Perhaps it might even be important for you to take note of what the person is complaining about, because it might improve the relationship if you address it. But bringing it out, in the heat of the moment and launching it out as a criticism will defeat what you wish to accomplish. You might believe by criticizing the person that you might be forcing the person to consider what is happening and making changes, but it accomplishes the direct opposite.
Very much so.
So it is better for you to, if you want to solve the issue and if you want to see changes, it is better you discuss things in a more wholesome environment than one where you are attacking the individual. It doesn't work that way.
Now, there's another thing I think that is important, is that partners need to listen to each other's feeling. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think so, because you need to, when a person tells you that something is affecting them, you do not try to downplay what the person is saying, or relate to the situation as if what they are saying is not.
It's very trivial. It does not
Right.
make sense.
You need to pay attention to what the person is saying to you and how they are feeling about the situation, and then show compassion and concern and address the situation that is affecting the individual. I like to say it this way: if I have a child and the child is, comes from school, and that child is crying and is maybe casting a tantrum, or doing something that is unsavory, maybe flying his shoes, doing things like that, I will not just begin by firstly by condemning him and trying to draw attention to his misdemeanor. Okay, or start to yell at him and tell him why you have to throw your shoes out, why you flinging your bag. You are addressing the misdemeanor before you address the child's emotions. What has happened that is causing the child to cry? Identify with the child and show that you respect the emotions that they're expressing. I notice that you're upset, or something has really is painful to you, or something is hurting you, or you're disappointed. Tell me what has happened. It is your first response should be trying to understand your child's emotion than dealing with the child's misdemeanor. Find out why the child is behaving the way that they have behaved. Try to identify the emotions and try to understand before you start to criticize the child's behavior or to draw attention to the child's misdemeanor. That's what it should be. Rather than attacking the way I say it, um, identify the feelings and the hurt that I am feeling and indicate that you have understood that feeling, or that you are identifying it, and then express your concern for it. Whether that means I notice you are hurt, or something seemed to be disappointing to you. It is okay to feel disappointed if something is affecting you. What exactly is happening? So you you give attention to the feelings of the person before you deal with other situation. That gives the person the feeling that they are understood.
Or you are concerned about them.
You are concerned about them, and it calms the person down better than if you try to attack the misdemeanor that came with the expression of the emotion.
So if you just think about it, if you were to ask a child, why are you behaving this way? What is wrong with you? What are you feeling? What is the cause of your pain? By the time this child is prepared to give you the answer, or is giving you the answer, you would realize the casting of the shoes and the kicking and the throwing up of self eventually comes down so quickly, and they are more willing to explain to you why. Now, it is the same way with the adults. If you can identify with the person's emotions, it is easier for that person to remain calm, and you will be able to better deal with the situation. Too often, we think of what you think is happening at the time and why the person is not supposed to behave in that way, and this is what you want to deal with. Why they are not supposed to behave in that way, or not supposed to say that, instead of what is the cause for them saying it. If you try to find out the cause, then you would realize that you're attacking the root of the problem and not the effects of the problem.
Lovely. I couldn't add. That is well said. And I just think too, maybe it is important to note that the way women handle the situation is slightly different from the man, especially in the context of the relationship. Um, for a lady, it is very important for you to show that you have understood their feelings before you give them advice. Because sometimes a lady comes with a complaint, and it doesn't have to be a complaint about you, the way you are relating to her, but she could be telling you about something that happens on the job. And men are quick to offer a solution. Okay, okay, let's say, I had a hard time with my boss today. He yelled at me. I'm not saying this is good, I'm just using an illustration. And then he tells you, well, what did you do? What did you do? What happened? You understand? And then you tell him how you respond. I don't think you should have responded to the boss like that. Now, right away, he's giving instruction and correcting you. And that doesn't go well with the female, because she's not sharing that for you to give her instructions as to what to do. But she wants you to identify with her feelings, that she's hurt, and you should respond to the feeling before you start to deal with the other things that you want to say. Okay, so I think men are quick to offer solutions, even though it is not called for. It's not that the advice is not good, but at that time, it may not be your best thing. Identify with the person's emotions first, reassure them, show them love and respect. It might be better, okay, for the person. A man, on the other hand, again, it's almost the same way. They don't necessarily want your advice and what you need to do. If they want that, they will ask you what you think. But if they have not asked it to you, they're not still soliciting from you advice, don't get there. Identify the person's emotions and help. I help them express their emotions and show them that you are with them, rather than trying to offer solutions and so on. Because one of the biggest problem for men is the fear that you see them as incompetent, okay, or that they are not good enough. It is very important how you relate to the situation, that you do not pass on that kind of message to a man.
Okay, but just a quick note here, man. Your wives, your girlfriends, your friends, they're really there to try to help you. So the fact that you do not really want an advice, sometimes it is important that you just listen. And if you listen, sometimes you would realize that the advice that is being given is in your favor and to help you become a better person. Too often we allow our ego to step in and we do not listen, and you do not listen. So it is important to listen. But I just want to pause a while here now. I want you to ask your questions. You just type it in. We're going to read the questions and we're going to try to answer those questions. So I want you to write in your questions, make your comments. Remember, it's a conversation, and both you and I, all of us, can partake in this particular discussion. So I want you to comment, ask questions, and so forth. But I want to just say good night to Sonia, Antoine, Francilia, Antoine as well, Andrea Vida, and Claudette Massman. We want to say good night and thank you for joining us. Now, Lizzie, I passed you so fast and did not say good night. Special good night to you. Special good night to everybody. But, it's my daughter-in-law, so I'm just pausing to say this special good night to her.
Yes. Yeah, so far we've been saying that it is important for you to listen. Listen to what is said, listen also to the emotions. And we said, you said, do not trivialize it, right? Wave it off as if it is nothing. Ensure that you understand what the person is talking about, or try to understand the problem the person is going through, so that you can see things eye to eye with the person. And don't be quick to be ready to give a rebuttal, but try your best to understand, okay, the situation and how it is affecting the other person. What I've found out is that when people do not follow these skills, they spend more time arguing about a situation, okay, and they put their own spin on it, and it creates more hurt than anything else. And when that continues for a period of time, each person feel that they are not appreciated and they are not loved, and they withdraw their emotions from each other.
And the problem is not solved.
Never solved. So it is important. Now, what I would also like to is maybe I should ask you a question, okay? Just as you're thinking of asking. Tell me something. If you are in a situation where your spouse is blaming you without first asking you question about a situation, how would you respond? Okay, you are in a situation, the person is starting to attack you and blame you for something without first trying to find out what has happened. Like the example I gave there, where let us say you waiting for me,
late.
right? And then I came late, I didn't call, and then when I come, you just blasted out on me without trying to find out why, okay, or what happened. Maybe the better thing to say is the what rather than the why. Why is that difficult to answer? But what actually happened? You know, so if you were in a situation like that, okay, where you see, you know, the person is, your spouse is blaming you for something without first having asked you, or they are reacting to you in a negative way, okay, in a disdain or in a disrespectful way, even before asking you the situation, how would you handle that? Okay, or have you found yourself in a situation where you did this, okay, and how did it turn out, and what is your advice as to what is the best way to do that? I'd love to hear from you.
Remember, it's a two-way street. We're coming down and you're coming up, but we have to meet on the way. So we are conversing tonight. Whilst you are thinking, if a situation like this exists between the two, while you may be angry or disappointed that the person has made you miss out on your evening classes or whatever the chores that you wanted to accomplish for the evening, if you just ask him, why were you unable to come on time, or why are you late? As simple as this would solve the problem. The individual would now give you the reason why they're late. Not that you're not disappointed inside. You just want to hear why. Why are you late?
If you do have to express your disappointment, don't do it in a disrespectful way. You could say that, you know, I'm hurt, you know, I'm really disappointed that I was not picked up at 4 o'clock as we had agreed on, because I have classes and I miss out my classes. You can mention all of that, but do not try to blast out on the person without knowing the person's information. So, you know, you can state how you felt about the matter. You know, I'm disappointed. I am, you know, I'm missing out on my classes. I would have been happy if I were called. What exactly happened? Why is this situation like this? Because it's really a painful thing for me. So in that way, you state all of your concerns without just being, you know, disrespectful and without blasting out on the other person. And it does not call for that when you have not yet understood the person's side of the situation. So you can see how it is important to understand the person's side. And understanding the person's side does not only mean to hear what the person has to say, but to see it from their perspective, why they acted the way they acted, what is behind what they are doing. Because if you don't understand that, you might believe that you know why the person is behaving, and you feel, and you might be tempted to want to correct the person, okay, or tell them how they should do something for it to, you know, to line up with what you want, okay, and that in itself cannot be easily received, and there are a lot of reasons for this.
We have a question, and it's a pertinent question.
Yeah.
Why should they wait for you to ask why to
To me, they should
well, the
explain
person is
as soon
saying
as they
they're
come in.
thinking that the other person should explain as soon as they come in. Now, it's not that the other person would not have explained. It's just because you are angry and you are ready to speak because you feel that you have lost out on what you were supposed to do. So only now you are coming. The person has not even said a word. Sometimes they are not even inside yet. They are coming, but because you have been fuming all the time, you are the one who would speak first. But if you don't say anything, the other partner will tell you exactly why they are late. You might just
And
say something like that,
apologize. Yes.
well, I know you might be really feeling bad, that I did not come in on time. But you know what happened? And then they would go on to explain.
I had
But
a flat tire in a place where, I was alone waiting for somebody. My phone died.
or something.
A number of things
Yes.
could have happened.
And after you listen to the reasons why they weren't able to come to meet you at that particular time, you begin to see sense in why they were unable. So it is not that sometimes the person is not willing to give you the information, but because you are angry, anxiety has taken over, you are mad, you just can't wait to say what you have to say. So very often the person never have them give their reason. But I think if you would just wait, or if you would just ask, you would get the response.
Yes, and I don't have any problem with you asking questions or you taking the initiative to ask, because you have to show the person, the dissatisfaction that you experience, so that it doesn't become a practice to feel that they can just, presume on your time and come late and every time, you have to let the person know it is dissatisfying to you. It's just that be careful not to accuse the person and to name
How
call.
you say what?
Yes, before you actually get all of the facts. But it would be nice though, as soon as the person approach you, give them time so that they can apologize and give you their side of the situation. So that, well, again, too, it all depends on how the person finds you. If the person finds you upset, maybe the better thing to do is to apologize and tell you they will explain to you what happened later. Because when a person is upset, they do not process information properly. And so that's another important thing to take note of. Okay, so yeah.
I was almost tempted to role play this, but I think it is understood.
Yes. I think what I just find is that there's too much blaming, okay, that goes on, because we feel emotionally jaded at a certain time. So we keep blaming the other person and we start saying things to hurt the other person and twist the conversation and deflect the concerns that the person has, and put the problem on the other person rather than taking ownership, excusing our behavior. A whole set of damaging and disparaging things happen in the whole process. And I think we can avoid all of that, because key to the person's complaint is for them to highlight something that is affecting them, and it is better you try to understand what the person has to say and try to adjust or try to address the problem, rather than rebutting and saying things that are not nice.
Yes, so good night to Tabitha Mati. Good to have you with us tonight.
Yes, so I just believe that one of the reasons why conflicts happen and a lot of misunderstanding is because there's too much of assumption. You need to know that before you, as I said, you blast out, that you have to make sure that you understand the person's concern first or the situation first And do not assume that you know what a person is thinking or that you know a situation before you get confirmation from the other partner that what you are thinking about is exactly what they intended to communicate.
No, sometimes we behave that way because we have had situation prior to that particular one, and exactly what you thought about, that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So right away you think, well, whoo, I'm good at that. And so when something else happens, we begin to just think that we know it and we know exactly why it's your habit. And we usually, just sum it up in the total sum and say it is your habit. It's every day. You're always doing that. And sometimes it is just the very first time this thing has happened. You have had other situations, but nothing really close to this one. But you would say it's always happening. Mm-hmm. And knowingly, the person, they've never done it before. And for you to accuse and to assume that you had all the information well put together, it is something that can aggravate if you are not very mindful or you cannot take hold of your emotions. It is very difficult, I must say, to hold your emotions in check because we are human beings, we are sinful, and so nobody likes anyone to step on their toes. But it is a good practice to be able to keep yourself in check, because this is one of the reasons our world, our country is the way it is today. We think we have the answer and the solution, and we act accordingly, and very often it is in the wrong way.
Yes, somebody's asking a question there again. When you have seen a trend, can you label it? Or will that be name calling? For example, if the person is always negligent, can you say, but you are always forgetful? I think it is bad to say you are always forgetful, because that's not true. You cannot forget everything. So that is what should I call it? That's overreaching. You are saying too much for just one instance or for a situation.
A few times it has happened.
It has happened. So that's not right. And this is a judgmental statement, because now you are condemning or blaming the person, or what we call it, you are name calling. You are now attacking the person's character rather than the situation. So be more focused on the situation rather than attacking the person's character, and rather attacking the individual themselves. So the name calling is out of place.
Okay, so
focus on the situation rather than blaming the person.
I'm just asking another question as it relates to this question. The person who has written the question, have you ever, or is there any time that you know that that person remembered something? So to say that they are always forgetting, it means that they have never remembered anything. And that's not true. So we are overemphasizing when we use the word always.
Or you never.
Or you never. We need to avoid using that word. You can say very often, or I realize very often, you forget, but not always. Always is overemphasizing.
It's overreaching.
Yes. Not even emphasizing, but reaching.
Yeah, so I think we should avoid the blaming game, because it's a big problem.
Oh,
you're right.
This there is a sore point for many relationships. That blame gaming, it is really, really something we need to avoid in our relationship so that we can enjoy our relationship.
I think we look like we're close to being out of time, but I think another problem, as I see it, and I have often when I listen to the complaints of spouses, is that people like to twist the words. Okay, you say something, and then they hear it a different way.
Or they understood.
Right. You understand? Okay, and sometimes it is based upon your own past experiences and other baggages that you may have in the relationship. Okay, for example, somebody might say something like that. you okay? You 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 didn't do the okay. You didn't go to the shop and buy the things that I had asked. Well, you didn't buy the things that I asked you to buy. So the person, instead of hearing exactly what you said, they just feel that you are incompetent. So what you mean? I'm incompetent, or you know, so right away, the way they understand it, they believe that you are attacking them, and as if you mean that they don't know what to buy or they don't know how to buy something. You see how the answer can go? So if the way a person understand sometimes has to do, you said it a while ago, you know, has to do with your upbringing, how you have been treated, how your parents respond to things, and then you find yourself automatically responding in that same way. And sometimes what you are carrying over as what you understand is very far from what the person intended to communicate. And that kind of misunderstanding can create a lot of issues in the relationship because of the spin that you put on what the person is saying or the interpretation that you make of what the person. It is better to repeat what you think you are hearing or what you feel that is coming through. Don't throw it at the person. Just ask the person, I'm hearing that. Am I hearing, or am I at least, am I understanding that not buying what you asked me to buy in the shop? Am I hearing you're saying that I am incompetent?
Or I don't know.
Or I don't know how to buy or something like this. So you say what you think and give the person a chance to either confirm or disapprove what you have actually said. But don't hit it as if that is exactly what the person meant. Okay, this creates a lot of problem.
Now, when we speak and we name call and we do those things, they have long-lasting effect, not just for the present while the situation was ongoing, was happening, but even after. That is why sometimes when you get into another argument or another situation, you bring back some of those things that were said before and you relate it to this one. And if it is said, you would say something like that. I know you would have said so because the other day you did so and so. So we need to be so mindful of what we say to each other because these words can have lasting effect in our relationship and on the individual. We need to be very mindful of that. And that is why we need to be intentional about our relationship. We need to take time to deal with situations. We need to be patient with each other. Other than that, we will create problems and it makes our living very uncomfortable. When you look back, you have actually brought problems upon yourself. So it is important now to take time to listen, analyze the situation, and arrive at an amicable solution.
Yes, I remember my wife used to draw to my attention some of the things that used to happen, okay, with her in-laws, right, or with my family sometimes. And I took note of it and realized how destructive it can be. Sometimes she says, I came to help you. And then instead of, my parents saying, okay, I'm glad that you came to help. So what you mean there? I don't know how to do this. So you see, there's always a distortion. And now sometimes they don't mean anything bad, but the way it comes across, it really comes as a distortion of what you actually intend. And I find a lot of couples are doing that to each other. The person says something, they distort it. Okay? And then it creates a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of foment between them. And they really need to try and avoid this as much as possible. And as you said, this can create big wounds that may not just go away. It might last for a long time and might, hinder, hurt the relationship in the long run. All right. Now, wow, it looks like we are out of time. Yes, let me just say we are out of time, but let me still say good evening. Well, I can say good night now. Good night to Sharon Skelly, Jean Johnson, okay, and Sonia Antoine. We are happy that all of you were here with us. We are out of time, and it was, just an excitement talking with you. But of course, we look forward to greater participation every time. Or maybe we're talking too much and we need to pause a while. Or maybe we need to come a night to just ask more questions and hear what others have to say, right?
But however, for those of you who have not liked the page, please do before you leave and subscribe. Remember to share the link with your friends. Let us pray.
Yes, Father in heaven, thank you for the time we spent here, the discussion that ensued. We just ask that you will help families understand the dynamics of living together and how people relate to each other, and the need to be to adopt wholesome practices so that the communication can be effective, and that the interpersonal reaction with each other will be one that will build a relationship rather than breaking it or causing distance between each other or causing persons to withdraw their emotion from each other. We ask that you will bless families that have challenges, show them how to resolve it. May there be timely intervention to bring peaceful resolve to the situation so that the relationship can grow up to a higher level, and help them to see that sometimes problems themselves are not an indication that the relationship is not good, but that certain skills are necessary to be learned and employed to move the relationship to its next level. I pray, Lord, that as a result of this program, families will be blessed, the relationship will grow, we pray, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Well, we look forward to seeing you next Monday night. I hope you enjoyed the session tonight. We say good night to all of you and God bless.